All right, today I wanted to break down the top 25 ATOs I saw on each team's opening night. I'd like this to move pretty quick, so I'm going to try not to over explain things and just get straight to the point. And so with that, let's go ahead and get into the clips. All right, so first action here is a rub to a back door. So this is a little bit of the rub screen, does two things, helps get him open. Also, it flows all the action this way. This is the guy they're targeting, that's Levine here. So they're targeting their one of their most dynamic players. Couple things here. They open a ton of space just with the way they're spaced. PG is high, his man can't be involved. The big X5 is lifted and high. Obviously, on-ball defender is high. So you've basically got a one-on-one here with one of your most dynamic players. The only guy that can maybe help is this man in the opposite corner. If you want to cheat over, the problem is with the amount of shooting in the NBA, that'd be a pretty easy skip and pretty high efficiency three-pointer to take. So very very tough to help on that. So it's basically you got one-on-one here. So the things I like, all the action is flowing towards one of your most dynamic guys. So very reasonable for the defense to want to disrupt what looks like to me might be a handoff, something like that. So if they want to disrupt that, set them up for it, and let that set up that back door cut into all this space. And at this point on the catch, that's Levine going up with it. That corner man, he's not going to be able to affect it. Okay, elbow entry here. And one thing early on here, they clear this man out on kind of an exit type screen. That's important because it opens up a ton of space here, which what that does is creates this action here, this two-man action. It's 2-on-2 where these defenders have to execute it. They have to execute the coverage very well or else someone's going to be open. And with a guy like Murray, this is a little bit of a flare screen. With a guy like Murray that shoots it that well, most of the time, defenses are going to chase over the top of that because if they go underneath, it'd be an easy stop behind three. And so he chases over the top. Again, it's tough to execute. The whole backside is cleared out, so there's no help on it. He ends up wide open at the rim. All right, get to a shallow. So they run a get, like a little get action, throw it into a handoff. This man is shallowing underneath. Okay, I think two options here. One, a lot of times teams shallow out to open up all this space, which they did. The problem is the primary defender went underneath, and so if he wanted to attack this, if the ball handler wanted to attack this gap, it's clogged because he went underneath. So the common thing to do would be flip it, and so he takes it the other way now. They don't really rescreen it. A lot of teams would. They don't. He slips out and he's getting to the backside of the rim, the big guy that is. Okay. But with him driving here, now he's driving into a lot of traffic in a big crowd. But what he does have, again, is his big dive into the backside of the rim. And so he's just made, at this point, if he engages, and that's the on-ball defender, if he can engage X5 at all, the only read he's got is who's tagging. And so he does engage the defender. Now he just reads the tag. The tag is late, and so he throws it up. If the tag were earlier, he could hit Mitchell on the lift or the fill behind. Go slow, engages, he doesn't help enough, doesn't tag enough, throws it up in that high window. So creates a lot of space, and he's playing to his space. All right, a little bit of a touch action. I think this is kind of important. I think now they're not pressuring. If they were, though, that touch action could be nice because now this is going to be the guy that's quarterbacking it and passing it. He's got a live dribble and he can try and execute this pass and make the read without having to sit there and dribble the ball under pressure. Okay, they wrap this man. I think that can slightly occupy this defender. Could also possibly rub or brush into this defender. Doesn't happen here. But what I do like is just the amount of space this action has. They're sending Robinson, big time shooter, into all this space. They're going to have to chase. And so now they get him running into that space. He attacks, draws two, makes the correct kick. Don't hit the shot, but got a really nice look. Okay, Chicago look, and maybe I'm wrong on the terminology on that. That's what I've been calling it, so that's what we'll go with. So that's a handoff into a ball screen. Again, they clear Robinson, big time shooter, kind of an exit type look. So he's going to be, this defender will be chasing. So again, you've got the backside cleared off. And so this is a high tag situation where you've got the tag man. So the man behind the ball screen, he'll be rolling, is basically above the free throw line. So you've got this whole backside cleared out. And now again, if the ball handler can engage X5, he's just reading, does this guy help? Does he not? He doesn't, so just throw it up and let the athlete go get it. All right, kind of a chin type look. I like this a lot. Wasn't really a chin screen, but they cut this man through it, and his defender becomes really important. So right here, his defender is pretty much going to have to be the low tag guy. Okay, he's the lowest man, furthest from the ball. So he tags, and then they immediately swing, get into a chase, and what it does, it takes that low tag and moves him from tagging to now having to guard the ball screen. He's in a big time recovery. Now you get disconnection at the ball screen and more likely to get downhill, which he does. Eventually engages the big man and is able to drop it off. All right. So you get the shallow cut here. So we're clearing this guy out. Should be creating that high tag situation we just talked about. This man in the corner clearing out. So again, you're doing a lot of things to create space. Okay, they're going to end up clearing out this entire backside by exiting him. Also, with this shallow cut, they've created a big gap to drive. And so you've kind of got two options. So the ball handler goes to get downhill and all that because he's driving all that space. And then he's just making the read from here. Can I get to the rim? If not, why not? Well, probably because the big man helped. So is the big open late? No. Why? Because they tagged. He ends up taking the shot here, which is, that's fine. He's getting deep, whatever. But he could also turn and hit the hit the tag man's guy. Okay, the only thing I don't always love about these exit screens is it does drag a defender through this gap. But with that being Trae Young, he's not really going to affect the ball at the rim, so not that big a deal. And maybe they did that intentionally. I don't know. There's the one kind of thing I would be a little bit concerned about is this getting plugged up by dragging a guy through that action, through that gap. Okay, flash the big. So they take away the reversal, flash the big, and then get into a like a kind of a side Spain look. Okay, and one of the things I like about this is that it's hard to ice that, it's hard to blitz that, and it's hard to switch that. So you're going to get kind of a drop type coverage, which in a Spain type action, usually a drop type coverage is kind of what you're wanting. So the coverage is predictable. You kind of get what you want. And I also just think it's a really hard hitting action. I think also any action where you throw below the defense puts them in a really tough spot. And so they end up getting the illegal on it, but I think there's something really good going on there. I like it. Okay, Miami did this a couple times, and I like it. They rip screen this man through, and now go into a single, just wide pin down. And what I like is honestly just the amount of space they have to operate in this. Again, puts a ton of pressure on these guys to execute the coverage well. Also, they've got a shooter coming off, so likelihood of chasing is high. And now at this point, this is basically a pick and roll. You've got 2-on-1 and basically 2-on-1.5. And so you've created the advantage, but a lot of it started with this rip screen to clear this guy out and now create all this space to play in. And from there, it's just a read. Does the big guy pick me up? If not, finish it. If he does, dump it off. Okay, I like this quite a bit. So they run some different actions, and basically what they do is they get each guy in the corner, so they got a ton of space. Inbounders on this side of the floor. They inbound it to the man. He's kind of on the lane line. So you've got a huge amount of space over here to attack. They put this guy all the way back, and now he is on a dead sprint into all this space. So this is basically like a guy catching in transition with a ton of space, and you've got one-on-one with a lot of space and a full head of steam stampeding that. I think that's really tough to guard. I think he ends up drawing the foul, but he's getting to the rim there. All right, so kind of an Iverson look into kind of an empty ball screen, kind of a Ram type look. Wasn't really a Ram, but could have been. Kind of looked like it would be. So anyways, Iverson action, but I think the thing to look at here is this guy. They clear this man low. Now on this empty screen, he would be the tag, and you can see he's kind of waiting around here, checking out what's going on in this action. So if this guy got behind the defense, he would be the one that steps over and tags. But what Miami does is they fly his man, the tags man, off this screen and make him late. So you see he's late, and now they got a decent little look. All right, kind of a chin type look. So basically they occupy a bunch of guys high. So they get a handoff to a throw. They got 3 guys on the opposite side right here. These 3 above the free throw line. Got another one coming into it way high up here. And so now they quick swing it. And what they've just done is create a huge isolation here. So this is one-on-one. And again, guys in the NBA, they're that skilled, but you get them in a one-on-one situation, it's going to turn out really well. One-on-one with space and a lot of guys occupied. So they've got this chin type rip screen going on. It's straight one-on-one, and that's usually going to end up in something pretty good. Didn't execute it, but I like the set. Okay, another high tag situation. Something you'll see is just clearing a lot of space. Exit this guy. I'm not sure. Just clear him. Robinson comes off this little rub type look and stays high. And so again, you've opened up a ton of space at the backside of the rim. At this point, all he's doing is reading it. The ball handler is, does X5 pick me up? If he does, throw it to this guy racing the backside of the rim. Throw it up to the athlete. Okay. Similar to the look we just saw, they take this reversal away, they get him to flash. And the big thing I like here is just flowing into another action. So they flow immediately into a zoom. And again, they flow into a zoom. There's a lot of space here. And he just makes the read. He's got an advantage. His man's coming off. Also think it's important that they get this guy to trail. So now he's trailing, and it's, again, this 2-on-1.5 situation. 1 offense, 2 offense, 1 defender, and maybe a half of a defender coming into the play. So just the ability to connect actions there and kind of have bang-bang, quick-hitting actions I like. Again, another high-tag situation. Real simple one. You know, the other thing, too, with these little rubs that I like, just any kind of movement to get into that high tag, I think, is good as opposed to just standing a guy there, because it makes this defender a little more attached than if he's just standing there. So get a good hit on the screen, force the over, he's trailing, and again, 2-on-1.5 as he's going to start getting behind the defense here. Defense is soft, and so he puts up the little under control floater. All right. Run a little bit of action here. They set this rip screen and clear this man out all the way to the other side. Kind of like that first one we saw with Denver. It's going to open up. There's no guy in the corner, so it puts a ton of pressure on this 2-man action to execute it right. And Curry is extremely hard to execute these on because of his ability to fly off of it and knock the 3 down at a high rate. So they clear this man. You can see this defender's occupied, no backside, a lot of space. And then they struggle to execute that, great back cut, and he's wide open. All right, simple one here. And this is something you can do with Curry that's great. You got to chase him all over the floor. So they loop him under, and by the time he makes this full loop around, it's almost impossible to stay extremely attached to him on that at that angle, especially with some screens. So he comes off trailing, and now when you've got a guy trailing, you've got an advantage, and you just play from there. And so he keeps attacking and eventually gets deep. Uh, Opposite corner has to tag on the big guy, diving to the rim, and then driving space principles. He drifts to the corner. This man's filling behind. So now Luka is having to guard two. There's a ton of space. He's got to guard the rear view and the baseline drift. Pretty difficult to do. But it kind of starts with looping, using Curry's gravity and looping him around there. Now you get the defense trailing, and you've created the advantage. Okay, kind of a little pistol type look, handoff, kind of decoy action, just get everything flowing one way. What they're looking for here, they get this pin down and then a duck in. And the thing I like, there's multiple options here. The NBA doesn't love post ups, but these high low duck ins can be really good. It's hard to help on those because the ball's not outside versus like, if he was posted up on the block here, you can load up when the ball's on the side, but this middle third action is really hard for other guys to get involved and help on. So he's got him sealed. He could throw it in there, but pretty good screen. Guy gets hung up on it, long closeout, gives him an opportunity to attack. So kind of two options there. Saw quite a few sets of teams running things for duck ins, which I thought was interesting. Saw a little more than I usually do. All right, side OBs. I've been seeing this quite a bit. These football type setups where they're springing into action, which I think is nice too. It's harder to guard and execute coverage when everybody is sprinting into it, and it's like dynamic spacing, and they're active into the action, as opposed to everybody just starting from a stagnant position. Makes it a little easier to read and know what the coverage might be. Get the switches right, and they end up getting a guy running off pretty free, get a good look. Don't think he hits it, but nice little look. Okay, so here Iverson cut, he wraps it, and what that does is it creates all kinds of space for Leonard to come off and just play off that pin down. So nothing crazy there, but putting your best player or one of your best players in space, it's tough to guard. Okay, I like this. Again, clearing space. So they've got these two guys occupied high with action. I think it's going to be like a little bit of a flare look up here. They're occupied high. Obviously, on-ball defender is occupied on the ball. And so now these two are in a complete isolation. They curl him. He could be open on that curl. I've seen other teams do it. I think I posted about Phoenix doing that last year. So they curl it. If he helps at all, great opportunity to duck him in and get a really nice post touch. Again, I saw a few more post-touch duck-in type sets than I've seen in a while. All right, zipper action. So they zipper them up, flow right into a Spain type look. So right at this point, this is just Spain. But the thing I think anytime you can disguise Spain, it works a little bit better. Just hard to execute the coverage. The other thing it does, it allows you to get, maybe a two guard or somebody like that involved kind of seamlessly instead of having to awkwardly put people in positions. Zipper them up and then play. And again, just disguises the Spain a little bit. Maybe makes it a little hard to execute whatever coverage if you wanted to pre-switch or whatever you want to do with it, or the defense wanted to do with it. Okay, really simple set here. Set a step up outside ball screen. What this does is it gets the big man's defender on this side of the action. Okay, so when they throw back and quick swing it, now he's able to seal because they lured X5 to the other side of the action. So now they've got a really nice duck seal here. So two things. One, he can attack either way, and that becomes like a drive to seal situation where this guy can keep sealing his man and there's no rim protector, or they can throw it in and hopefully that's just a catch, turn, and score, and he doesn't really have to make too much of a move with deep position. So again, didn't finish it, but I like the action. Iverson curl. So I don't know if this is by design or just the way they were playing it. Defense was on top, but I thought it was interesting. They loop the guy under to then over to then wrap it. And a lot of times you'll see teams when they do it, they'll just run over the top and then wrap the second one. But I don't know. I thought maybe that disconnects the defense a little more by going under and then around. Just adds another element of like having to chase them, and I thought could maybe disconnect it a little bit more. Again, defender makes a really nice play on this, but they do get a lot of separation between the guy cutting to the rim and his man chasing. So I don't know if there's something there or not, but I kind of liked it. Okay, touch action into a flare, and now they flow this right into a Spain look. So here's the Spain look. Again, just something to disguise it, something to mask it a little bit, add a little bit more complexity to it. You know, maybe it helped, maybe it didn't, but I think there's something there. Okay, I like this. So kind of a little ghost look into like a spread type ball screen look. And what that does, a couple things, they're setting up a back door here. One, it moves this guy a little further out. So if the ball had stayed over here, he would load up a little bit more. With the ball right here, he's ready to maybe tag, or he's just one pass away, so he's a little tighter to his man. The other thing, it moves X5 up, getting ready to guard their ball screen and wherever coverage that is. And so it opens a ton of space. There's all kinds of space over here to set up that back door. The other thing I like is the action all of a sudden starts flowing back towards him. It was here, it starts flowing this way. Reasonable for this guy to want to come up and maybe disrupt the pass, disrupt the handoff. They bait him into it, great setup. And again, they're sending him into all that space. So nice little setup there. Is that it? Yep, that was the last one. All right, so hope you enjoyed that. And if you got any questions, let me know.